This is the narrated PowerPoint on documenting sources. So here's the big question, MLA or APA? MLA is good if you're thinking about any type of language major. APA is everything else, not literally. I mean, mechanical engineering doesn't use APA. They use something like it, though, in that when you cite the author, you include the year it was published, because currency is very important. Okay, so for either one, what you can use is the Purdue OWL, and one of the advantages is that it's free as opposed to having to pay for a style guide from MLA or APA. It's also kept updated by graduate students. It's been a project they've had for many years, and they're really good about getting it updated. If a new edition comes out of a style manual, there might be a lag time of a few months, but they usually get it done right away. One big mistake is that you don't want to simply list URLs at the end. That nobody does that. Okay, and the reason that you do documentation is to show where your information came from, not only in school but in the workplace. When you do a report for a manager, they're going to want to know where your information came from before they may make a decision that may cost a lot of money. Okay, so here's a quote that I was using in a paper that I was working on last summer. And so I need to go about documenting it. And what I want to do is both document it in the text and also do the bibliographical citation. Okay, so here's the article that it came from. And so I got the authors there. And what I did is I copied and pasted a portion from the direct quote, because I don't remember exactly where it came from, into the find feature, which I got by clicking on edit up there in the upper left hand corner. And it gives me that little box, and I pasted who is reading, because that's part of the quote that I thought would be pretty unique to it. And we'll see about that in a minute. Here's the rest of the article. This bottom part, between the bottom part and the top part, I've got everything that I need, all the information I need from the article to do the citation in the text of my essay, and also the bibliographical citation at the end. We'll come back to that in a minute. Okay, so here I found it. Here's the quote I was using, and it's on page 46. So remember that, write it down, because I'm going to need it. Okay, now here's what I do. There's various ways you can go about getting information from the Purdue OWL. You can do this, how to cite an article APA in text, and then I usually add OWL for Online Writing Lab. You don't even have to put Purdue. And this is what it gives me. You can see right there the Purdue OWL came up first anyway. So, and it's got the basic information I need, but I'm going to go into that first one, to get more information. And so here it says the way you go about doing short quotations, put the authors, or you put the year the study was published following the author's name. And at the end of the quote, you put the page number that it's on. You should do this for both direct quotes and also for summaries. The rule of thumb you use is, if you got it from another source, you document it. Okay. So, and of course, if I hadn't put the name after, or excuse me, the year after the author's name, then what I would do is I would put the author's name at the end of the quotation, and the year, and the page number. So there's various ways of doing this. A lot of times what people do is like the first one. They'll mention the author's last name, they put the year of the study directly after that, and at the end of the direct quote, they put the page number. There's also just, there's all kinds of different issues that come up. It says place direct quotations at the bottom there. that are 40 words or longer in a freestanding block, and it gives you directions on how to go about doing that. The quote I had was a little bit on the long side, but it was only 36 words, so I just keep it in the text. Okay, so here's how you go about doing it in the text. Since I mentioned the author's names at the beginning of this passage, I went ahead and put the year it was published, and then I put the page number at the end, and I used track changes from Microsoft Word, so that would show up for you. Okay, I mentioned that all the information I need is right there on the first page. It isn't true for all articles. It is for this one. And you can see that that's up at the top. There's the name of the two authors. And then that in the right column, that's from the lower right-hand margin of the page. It's got the name of the journal, the volume, the number, the page numbers, and the DOI, which is uh, the data object information, or excuse me, document object information, and that's you can what you can do is make that a hot link, so you can click on it and it'll go directly to this article. We'll look at that in just a minute. Okay, so to get the bibliographical citation, I do basically the same thing, except I put bibliographical citation article, APA, and OWL. This time remember to put OWL in there. It doesn't always go directly to the OWL, but often it does. And here's where we went. In this case, I decided to click on the second one because I do have an article that was published in an electronic source. And let's see. I'm going to use that first one as a model. What I usually do so that I can have it right there in front of me is I will copy the example I've given and paste it into the article, and then type in my bibliographic information for the article that I'm referencing so that I have it done exactly the way it's supposed to be done. And you notice I have the DOI there if one is available. Those have become very popular to use. Or in another case, JSTOR is another big database that we have access to here at Georgia Southern. So you can also use the URL for JSTOR. This just allows the reader to click on it and go directly to the article. Okay, so here's the model for the article, for that type of article. And so here's what I did in response. One thing I did is I indented the second line in the third and the fourth and the fifth 5 spaces. And that's what you're supposed to do when you're double spacing your paper. That way the reader can tell where one bibliographical citation ends and where another one begins. Okay, now I've left, this is a fairly long show in terms of the number of slides, but I left it here, APA and MLA together, so that you can see the similarities and the differences. Okay, so I want to learn, I'm going to use that same article, and I want to learn how to cite it in text in MLA. And so I can see here that what I have to do is if I mention the author's name, then I just have to put the page number in parentheses. Notice that in each case, the period falls outside the parenthetical citation. One way to remember this is that the parenthetical citation, where you have the page number, is part of the sentence. Now, if I hadn't mentioned the author's name, then I would put the author's last name in the parentheses. And there are other types of minor differences, like with APA. If you have all 3 in the parenthetical citation, you separate them with commas. You don't separate the author's last name and the page number in MLA with a comma. Okay. Also, I was interested in the differences in terms of using multiple authors. APA uses an ampersand. That's that little curly cue that you put between names. MLA doesn't do that. They use and. Okay, so here you can see the differences. I did not use the ampersand. I got rid of that. And instead I used and then I just put the page number at the end of the sentence. Okay, now in terms of doing the bibliographical citation for MLA, I typed this in, and I decided to go with with the second one. And this is a scholarly journal. That seems pretty obvious to me. And and this one also appears in print, so that the second one would be a better guide. And so there it is, the model that I'm using. And so uh, this was the article as it appeared in APA. And here's what it looks like in MLA. And you can see there are a number of differences. Again, I used the track changes, but there were enough, I thought, that it would be less confusing to give it to you this way as well. You can see that the year of publication has been moved from after the author's names to after the volume and the number. And with the names, we put, instead of having G. Stone, we write out Gerard, and the same thing with Lee D. That's how they were publishing, so that's how we do it. You see that the first name is inverted, Stone Gerard, the second one is not. And then the title of the article in MLA is in quotation marks. All of the major words are capitalized, and with APA, you only capitalize the first letter in the title of the article and any type of proper nouns like Flesh. That's the name of a person, Rudolph Flesh. So the F would be capitalized. If you had a colon, the first letter in the first word following the colon would be capitalized. We don't have one. Okay, you notice that the title of the article is italicized. That's true for both APA and MLA. But in this case, with APA, it was volume. They just had 10, and then in parentheses, they had 1. In this case, you write out volume and you write out number 1. And there you see, in addition to having the page numbers and the DOI, you also have the date of access. Okay, so the big thing that you have to remember is that you're going to run into all types of situations. A lot of times you can just try Googling it with the type of documentation that you're using and the OWL for OWL. And lots of different things are going to come up, but you can handle it if you just look for it.